Hey everybody, it's great to be with you as we continue our walk through the Bible one day at a time. Our reading for today was in Deuteronomy chapter 31 and 32. Um, you can tell Moses is kind of wrapping up his final message, and he knows he's coming to the end of his life, and it's the Israelites are ready for a new chapter as they cross the Jordan River under the leadership of Joshua. But he wants to leave them with something that will help them remember the lessons they've learned over the years. And that's why he gave them chapter 32. Chapter 32 is actually a song that Moses wrote. It has a number of verses in it. But I think he understood something that's an important principle, and that is that music has a way of penetrating um, our hearts. And that's why, you can remember some of these stupid cigarette commercials maybe you heard years ago from a musical jingle. And you wonder, why did I even remember something like that? Well, music does that. And that's why hymns are so powerful. And a good hymn has that in mind. It should teach us some good theology. Yes, it's okay to express our feelings about God and let Him know what we think. But a good hymn should also be a teaching tool that we can use to pass on the truth about God to some others. And Deuteronomy 32 is like that. We don't have the melody; we just have the words. And I'll consider one of those verses today. It's from Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 11. It starts back a couple of verses when God said He found Jacob and he led Jacob. And but He says in verse 11, as an eagle stirreth up her nest, fluttereth over her young, spreadeth abroad her wings, taketh them, beareth them up on her wings, so the Lord alone did lead him. I find it interesting that God would compare Himself to this female eagle. An eagle's nest can be very large, sometimes as much as 8 feet across and weigh 2,000 pounds. And part of the reason for that is once a nest has been established, there's a framework of some larger limbs underneath, and then it expands from there. But eagles return to a nest that's been created every year, year after year. And every time they come back, they add some more to it. And they'll add some twigs and maybe vines, and then add some leaves on that to make it a little softer, and add to that maybe some fur from small animals that they might bring back to the nest, and some of their feathers to make it warm and comfortable for this new little eagle that's going to hatch. Well, the eagle does hatch, and that little eagle grows. And you may wonder, after all the effort that this mother eagle has put in to the nest, why would she stir up the nest? But they do. As the months go by, and it's time for that little eagle to fly and to leave the nest, that's what a mother eagle will do. Take out some of that fur and some of the leaves to make it nice and soft and warm, to make it uncomfortable. And that young eagle will hop around in different places on the nest. And God is saying, that's what I did with Israel. They had it pretty good. After they moved to Egypt, Joseph was their hero, and he saved the people. They lived in the land of Goshen. Living was easy. But God didn't want them to stay there. That was not the land He promised to Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. And so He began to stir up their nest. And that's why a king arose that didn't know Joseph and put the people into slavery. God was making them uncomfortable where they were, just like that young eagle. It says that the mother eagle flutters over her young. Sometimes that she'll kind of dive bomb the youngster and make him hop around a little bit on the nest. What the mother wants that young eagle to do is, as it hops around the nest, to spread out the wings a little bit and feel what it's like to have air underneath those wings. And spreadeth abroad her wings and taketh them. She takes the young eagle up in the air. It'll hop on the back of the mother. The mother will take off and fly high in the air with the young eagle on its back. and do a little roll, and the young eagle will fall off. And it may scream and be flapping those wings as hard as that young eagle can do. It's not going to help any. And if that young eagle doesn't learn, the mother eagle will do a power dive underneath that young eagle and let them land on her back, take them up again in the air, try it again, and the eagle will fall. And eventually that young eagle is going to learn, though, that those massive eagle wings were not made for a lot of hard work and a lot of hard flapping. And all that young eagle has to do is just spread out those massive 6-foot eagle wings, and the wind will take it to heights it can't even imagine. It can just soar under the power of the wind. That's what God was doing through the Israelites' journey through the desert. They were out of food at times, they were lacking of water, they were enemies. They got to Kadesh Barnea, they were terrified of the inhabitants of the land, wandered for 40 years, and God was like that mother eagle, just letting them fall on their own, make their own mistakes, because they needed to learn something too, that young eagle needed to learn, that it's not by their effort or their strength that they're going to serve the Lord, but it's through faith. You may be interested to know that in the Hebrew language, the word for the spirit is the same word as the word for wind. And just like the wind takes that eagle to heights it couldn't imagine before, through faith, the Holy Spirit does that for his people. And there's a lesson that we can all learn. You know, if you feel like you've gone through some of those times when God was stirring up your nest and making you uncomfortable where you are, it could very well be that he had other plans for you, wanted you someplace else. And for all of us, he wants us to come to the place where we can just spread out the wings of faith and trust him for our salvation, for the Christian life, to please him, to someday come to be with him. And that's where God is taking us through some of the times when he stirs us up and lets us fall, to lead us to simple reliance on the Holy Spirit. Well, you can meditate on a lot of these verses in this song. I hope you do that today as you consider it. Get back in the Word. Tomorrow our reading is, we'll finish up Deuteronomy. There are a couple of short chapters, 33 and 34. And then let's get into Joshua, chapter 1 and chapter 2 in Joshua. And read it. Be glad to be back with you again tomorrow. Have a great day, folks.